All right, guys. So Laura Browne is in the building. Thank you, Laura, for coming on the breakdown.
Thanks for having me,
Of
Ben.
course, of course. You want to tell a little bit about yourself and how long you've been in the business. I know you've been in the business a long time, but you put the dates to it. All right.
Okay, so Ben, I'm kind of saying my age, I guess.
That's why I said I'll
Um,
let you do it. I'm smart.
so I started out in this real estate game back in 1992. So I've seen a lot of different things and stuff. And yeah, I enjoy what I do. I love real estate. I love being an attorney. I love helping people.
Awesome.
So
So
yeah.
me and Laura have been working together for a long time, and I'll be honest, I always tell people like your style of lawyering fits my style of being a realtor. I don't know if people understand that, but we kind of have when problems arise, we have the same way of handling it, right? We
Absolutely.
so
Good, bad, or
it's actually
different.
fun because when we strategize, we're usually on the same page.
Yes.
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 Right. And that's the beauty. I always tell people when I recommend you to a client, I don't get anything out of it, but knowing that you're going to handle it the way that I think it should be handled and get us to the finish line. And whether that's a lender, whoever it is, you know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
we've been in the trenches before and we've probably seen a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what I wanted to touch on a little bit today. So the name of this is going to be the breakdown. We're going to break down what's going on. And I'm going to talk about sometimes when I work with attorneys where things happen where it doesn't feel like we're on the same team. And it kind
Mm.
of, and maybe you have some stories you could share for realtors. And I'm doing this coming from a solution based, like I'm not here to bash
Sure.
anybody, especially what's going on in the industry now. We need to
Oh,
stick
there's a lot
together,
happening right
right?
now. Yeah. We all need to stick together.
Right. So I will tell you one that comes up a lot with me. And again, this might not be the attorney's fault, but I'm going to ask you how you handle this. We get accepted offer, we do inspections, and the agent says to me, "It's fine. We're not everything. We did the inspection. We're moving forward." So the buyer, I'm on the list side. I want this to be clear to everybody. The agent's on the buy side, representing the buyer. I'm representing the seller, and the agent says to me, the inspection went fine. We don't need anything done. I'm like, everything good. We're moving forward. Yes. So I tell the sellers, of course, I'm going to give the sellers the news because the sellers are anxious to the inspection. How'd it go? It went
Mhm.
great. They're moving forward as per the agent. And in a few days, what happens? The seller calls me and says the attorney requested 10,000 in repairs. Like, you know what I mean? So now I'm like, to me, that's the attorney being out of their lane. But of course, I'm going to call the seller agent first, and I'm going to say what happened, right? And sometimes the agent says, I don't know what happened. Like the attorney did it on their own. Is that possible that the attorney did it on their own?
I
I know you can't speak
Yes.
for other people, right? But so
No, well,
yeah,
okay, yes, right. But the way I handle stuff like that is, first of all, when a client first comes to me, the introduction or whatever, I'll always ask, so, did you schedule your inspection? Yes, we're going such and fantastic. Okay. So after they do their inspection, they come to review the contract with me. I'll say, okay, you did your inspection, everything was fine, right? And that's when sometimes, because I've been in those situations, I'll have a client that says, well, we really want XYZ. And I'll say, well, did you tell your agent? No, we didn't tell the agent. We wanted to tell you. I said, well, let's get your agent on the phone,
smart.
right? Because to be honest with you, I'm not here to negotiate that stuff. That's stuff that should have been negotiated, upfront after the inspection if there was an issue. And I assume as a buyer's agent, you're going to be there with your client, right? Clients are not going on their own to these inspections. So the agent is also going to see what the inspector's saying. So a lot of the times we'll call up the agent right there at the review, and they'll be in shock. And they'll say, but you told me everything was fine. And I'll say, well, how do you want to handle this? And usually I'll come from an approach where I don't want to go back to the other attorney. Okay. Especially if it's someone that I don't usually work with. Okay. Or I don't know. The other attorney might get a little, guarded and come from, a place of, well, I'm going to kill this deal. I'm going to tell my client not to take this. I was told everything was fine. So I don't like to do that. I'll go
So you're
back to
so
our
you're not
agent.
you're not in favor of you being the one to ask for repairs or renegotiate, right? That's negotiating. And if you think of it, you're supposed to be on the law side. Am I right when the way I'm looking
Correct.
at it?
Correct. So sometimes, yes, sometimes lawyers, I will admit it, kind of get out of their lane. And to me, that's not my lane. Let's call the agent. You voice the concern. I'll ask the agent, what do you think? Is it something that you want to go back to the agent? And then it's the client's decision. But I really don't want to get involved in that.
Okay. And listen, sometimes, so believe it or not, you were on a deal with me when this happened, and the agent said to me, remember, he had no say in it. So he said, and
Yes.
you reached out to the lawyer, and she said you were like, I heard you did that, and she was like, absolutely not, right? So
Right.
so I think he was fibbing a little bit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember that one.
Yes. Okay.
So,
So I guess we're in agreement. We
yes.
agree on this. Like that's definitely for me. You know what it does for me also, besides the fact of being annoying, it kind of ruins the trust between me and the buyer agent. If like, how am I going to take anything? So moving forward now, your lawyer could just overdo anything you say. It's hard for me to keep going. You understand what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, absolutely. Because now, you're trying to develop a rapport, or you already have a rapport with that other agent. And then that other agent is like, you told me everything was fine. Where
Right.
is this coming
Yeah,
from?
yeah. And then he says, I have no say in this. That's not what I want to hear from the buyer.
Right. Right.
I, right? That's why you're getting paid. I thought you were going to have a little say in this.
Exactly.
So, all right, that's one of the things. And again, I'm not. A lot of lawyers are work together and we're very cohesive, and we know a lot of we see the names and we immediately know it's going to be smooth and not
It's either
right.
it's either okay, this is gonna go great, or we have the eye roll, like, oh my God, not this one again.
Strap in. Yeah, yeah.
My
But
God. Right.
yes. So I'll give you a chance now. Is there something the other way that happens that you'd like to get off your chest? This is therapy, Laura. And maybe I'll tell you a different angle from the realtor that
Okay.
if I can.
Well, actually, in all seriousness, one of the things that I don't like, because it makes my job difficult, is not having it's something simple, not having a complete purchase memo up front, you know. So when I get a memo in from a realtor and it doesn't have the complete information, and I'm supposed to be preparing a contract, that's very difficult for me. That's one of my pet peeves. And now I have to either be chasing the realtor, chasing the seller for information, and that kind of drives me crazy. If you know that there's going to be a mortgage contingency, please put down the mortgage amount. If you know that this is a co-op or a condo, don't just put the unit number. Please tell me what type of property it is. Okay. Please confirm for me that all, co-op docs, house rules, things like that have already been provided to the buyer. So these are things that and sometimes, realtors will get annoyed and say, well, why is it taking so long to get this contract out? Well, quite honestly, if I had complete information, I could get it out quickly. So that's one of the things that I think is really important, just from upfront, from the start.
I love this.
Those
And you know
memos.
what? In like since we started, we said we're all about solving problems. You know what I just thought of?
Mhm.
Maybe anybody watching, realtor, right? Maybe we can get a copy of a memo of what it should look like,
Oh,
right?
I have a great one.
Yeah, perfect, right? So anybody who watches this and they want a copy of that, we'll post it, or they could post their email in the chat as they're
Yeah.
watching. We'll send it out to them, and I think we're gonna come from solving problems, right?
Yeah, and that solves an immediate problem right from the start, right? Because the faster I can have information from the agent, the faster I can get that contract out. you
Okay.
know
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
think that's important to me. I don't know, some other attorneys may not care about it, I don't know, but I like to have a complete contract when I get it out.
Of course, yeah, of course. Details everything. So I'll keep going down that road. You get a completed memo as you prefer it. Do you have a certain amount of time where you like to get that contract out to the other attorney and to stick by?
So I like to get it out immediately.
Okay.
I first, obviously, I need to speak to the client, so sometimes it might be a minute to get out that contract, but it's because I haven't spoken with the client yet. The client has not confirmed that they're actually going to hire me, you know.
Right. Of
Um,
course, you have to have that
so
initial conversation, right? Before.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
if the client, calls me ahead of time and then and the realtor will hold off on sending me a memo until I speak to the client, that's great too. But if I've already spoken to the client, I get the memo. I mean, I get it out the same day. It's usually within a couple of hours. I like to get it done because
Cool.
if it sits,
Yeah.
it could potentially be an
Right.
issue.
Yeah.
And buyer's remorse.
Buyer's remorse. Other buyers coming in with higher offers, right?
Yeah,
Until they get, yeah, in New York, right? Don't we have to be mindful if the contract's not executed, nothing is a done deal. People start celebrating a little premature.
yes,
Yes.
yes,
I tell everybody
absolutely.
that. That's why we got to keep it moving forward in a timely manner.
Of course,
Uh,
of course.
um, all right. So I want to talk a little bit about, I'm going to talk about things that are going on with me right now because so they're in my
Okay.
memory. There's a million things we could talk
Oh,
about, right?
oh, I'm sure, but wait, but Vin,
Uh,
let's talk about the flip side of that for a second, right?
sure. Yeah.
So when I'm representing the buyer, and I get the contract in and I've reviewed with my client. So now I'm always going to have contract changes, always. There's just, you know,
I think it's
there's
safe to
just
say every attorney is going to have contract changes, right?
every attorney
99.9
is
is going to,
pretty
right?
much, it's not just me.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, no, but that's the process. I want people to know that's going to be the
No.
process, right? So there's going to be change, and that takes time as well. That's where you're going with this,
So
right? Yeah,
correct. Every attorney is going to have some changes. Okay. They're not going to be major, changes. They're not going to be changing the terms, but there's going to be some legal verbiage that as a buyer's attorney, we want to make sure that we have because ultimately it's for the protection of our client, right? So it might be a day or two before the other attorney gets back, to me with the changes. And I'll have a realtor calling saying, hey, what's going on with the contract? Why hasn't it been signed? What's going on? And I'll have to explain, well, listen, there was well, what were the changes? Legal verbiage changes. Don't worry. I'm not trying to kill your deal. I'm just
right,
trying to protect the client.
right. So it's
That's
funny.
all.
That's where I stay in my lane, and I just let you do your thing, and I don't even want to know
Oh,
what verb because I know that's what it is.
thank you.
Yeah,
But just to kind of be a little patient and understanding that the attorney is not trying to delay things, but just trying to work out some changes. That's all.
great. Yeah, that's a great point. Yep.
Thank you.
So memo fully sent to you properly. The client reached out to you and you spoke to them, sent it out. Going to be some changes, and then it goes back, right? And that's where we are with the timeline. So that's what, like you said, that could be a couple of days to go
Yeah,
over
it'll
the
be a
changes,
couple of
right? Yeah.
days.
So
Yeah,
let's say the contract goes out on a Monday, right? Fully out the right way. If you're dealing with someone who's on top of things, can it be executed 2 days, one day? With like what?
yeah. I mean, a lot of the times well, now post COVID, things change.
Right.
A lot of my clients don't or can't come in physically. I prefer to meet a client in person, but sometimes we're just going to do the review on the phone. So what'll happen is I will tell them, listen, this is not the contract that you're going to be signing. I have some changes. I'm going to send it over to the other attorney. As soon as I get the final, I'll upload it and that's it. So if I have an attorney that gets back to me the same day or the following morning, you know, one day, 2 days max, maybe, and then the client is signing and then wiring the down payment to the attorney.
Got it. So that was great information. I think it was very helpful. I want to talk about something that's happened to me recently, where a property was in going through probate, right? So
Mhm.
so I had a buyer who was interested in the property, and the lawyer advised them, and I'm going to quote the buyer: "Don't touch this. Like, stay away from it.
Oh,
like
why?
I don't know." Yeah. And now the property. So this is great. So this is exactly why we're here, the breakdown, right? This is why we're breaking it down. So I've bought properties in probate. So I've bought houses that I've flipped I'm in contract right now for something that I'm waiting if to go out of probate. So when I advised the buyer, she made it clear it was something that she really wanted. She had been looking for a while. So I'm like, you can just put it in contract while it's in probate, and then when it comes out of probate, and if you're worried about time, obviously you could put time on it, right? And
Yes.
but
We
guess
spoke about
yes,
this, I believe.
yes, because I wanted to do my due diligence before I advise. But guess what happened? She took the attorney's advice and said, I'm not going to touch it. And he told me not to touch it. Like, she kind of took me telling her this as a lack of concern for her. And the attorney,
Okay.
you know what I mean? And it was kind of like, almost like when I suggested that, my heart, it was coming from, I'm going to get you the property that you really want. You've been looking, this fits all your needs. We can get it. I got accepted offer. I know the agent. It was right there for us. And he told you don't touch it, and you respected his opinion higher than mine, obviously. And we're at a point where hopefully when it clears probate, it'll still be available and she'll be able to get it. But what are your thoughts on that exact thing that happened to my situation right there? How would you have handled that?
Well, well, why did the attorney say that? So like, is it a situation where there's a lot of surviving heirs and it could become contentious? And maybe that would prolong things, because that's something I would immediately think about. And maybe it's just there was going to be a fight and it would drag on forever and they didn't want to tie down the property. I don't know.
Again, I don't know the exact reason he said it, but if I had to think, it would be she could go get into a contract where just stuck in it and it takes long. Let's say it's backed up in the Bronx,
Well,
but and that to I know what we're going to say. She could have put in the contract to protect herself. If it takes past this amount of time, then you have the option to get out. But maybe he told her he had bad experiences. I don't know. Yeah, you know what I mean. But I almost feel like she's hopefully doesn't miss an opportunity on a house that she really
okay.
wants because of that advice.
Yeah, I mean, I've done plenty of contracts for clients where we have a clause in there that says, if you don't get this done in, let's say, 6 months, okay, then either party can cancel or choose to extend, you
Right.
know? And if you have a client that's really not in a hurry to buy a property, that should be okay. But I can tell you just from experience and handling administration and stuff in the Bronx is very, very backed up
Right. Right.
COVID, sorry. But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe it was that. Maybe the attorney just didn't feel comfortable with some kind of contingency. Who knows? I've heard from realtors, in the past that there's attorneys that don't like to touch REO properties. They will not represent a buyer who's purchasing an REO, and I just don't understand that. But that's, someone's opinion, and they're not comfortable with it, and that's okay.
Yeah, but that's his opinion on what he wants to work on. He's advising someone else to not move forward on a property that they want. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? It's a
unfortunately,
yeah,
yeah, he's now, she's missed an opportunity.
and
Maybe she
maybe,
won't
hopefully
find
not. Yeah,
anything else
right.
that
Yeah,
she likes. Who knows?
right, right.
I
So
think he was wrong. So if you're asking me for a yes or no, I think he or she was
you would
wrong.
have told her just expect some. The worst thing that could happen is we got to wait a long time, right?
I would say, how long are you willing to wait?
Yep.
If it's something, in the Bronx or whatever, you're going to be waiting at least, 4 or 5, maybe even 6 months. If you're okay with that, we'll put a clause in the contract. That's it.
So I wanted to talk about, you're working on the buy side. You need to fix the house needs some repairs, and you want to get the house repaired. So instead of lowering the price, which I know some realtors immediately we negotiate the price, right? But that doesn't really get your client money to pay the repairs, right? If a house is 750,000 and you drop it to 730, that didn't give the money to do the repairs. You know what I mean? So in a case where you want money to immediately do repairs and you ask for, is it a seller's credit for $20,000? Is it a concession? What is the wording that it should be? And at the point that I'm saying, this is when you would do that, correct?
Right. So it really depends. So, like, I mean, standardly, when you talk about a seller's concession, it's geared towards the buyer trying to get extra money on the mortgage, right? That's seller's concession.
Right. And
Inflate the
it has to
price.
appraise for a higher number.
We inflate the
Right,
price.
right.
The
The
buyer
Bronx,
may
yep,
not have a lot of funds,
yep.
right? And it has to appraise for that, and you work in their closing costs.
Right. Which is a
Now,
win-win because it doesn't change the net of the seller.
correct. And the seller is going to get reimbursed for the transfer tax on that concession portion anyway. So nobody loses out. The buyer gets some money. Okay. If you're just talking about, okay, there were some repairs that need to be done and we really want to do a credit, you don't have to necessarily word it as a seller's concession and work it into the mortgage if that's not what the parties are looking to
That's
do.
not what they're looking to do. That in this case, they just wanted the seller agreed he was going to give them whatever
Okay.
said monies for the
Then
repair. Then what
it
would you
should
call it?
be
Seller's
if
credit.
it's 750, there should be
Right.
a separate rider that says there will be a credit at the time of closing in lieu of repairs of the amount of blah blah blah,
Right.
$20,000, whatever it is, seller credit
Okay.
in lieu of repairs,
Right.
separate rider.
Okay. And it could have been to pay for closing costs as well. It could, you've seen it. It could have been for wherever you want it to be.
I've seen that too. Yeah, yeah, I've seen that too.
Okay.
But like I'm saying,
Because then
standardly,
you right.
talking about closing costs, you're talking about a seller's concession.
Right. Okay. Yep. So what are your thoughts on do we got to touch on it, or should we not even touch on it, like the whole buyer
What?
agency thing, the buyer agency thing, and because I mean, until it happens, like people, I know people are talking a lot about it. For me, it's business as usual. Like, and I'm like, this is the way I've made sellers a lot of money, so why would I want to change it? You know what I mean? I mean, I know you can't. It's going to be where you can't put it on the MLS, and I understand that, but I'm not panicked. Like I'm not like trying to foresee what people are going to do or how it's going to be. Do you have any thoughts, or really you're the same as me?
I mean, I know that, a lot of agents are concerned about that. I spoke, I think it was last week, week before, I spoke at two different places regarding the new disclosures, you know. And actually afterwards, I sat in on a meeting with one of the managers and she was talking about the commission stuff. And there are a lot of agents that are concerned, you know. And I just, yeah, I know that you can no longer, put the percentage to the agent. But I know now the buyer agent has to call up the listing agent and say, how much is the seller willing to pay out, right? And try to get something in writing. And if they're not going to pay out, they're going to have to speak to the buyer directly and get some money,
Right.
right?
All right. But I'm not going to just assume that the seller is not going to pay it. It's just you're not allowed to put it on the MLS.
Right,
And you can use words like concession, like what we just talked about earlier. You just can't use the word commission.
right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
again,
exactly.
I'm just thinking as someone who's done this where it benefits the seller to do it. Like, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
absolutely.
Right.
And
So
I think,
yeah.
and I agree with you, Ben. I
Uh,
think that a seller will be foolish to say, well, I don't want to pay out a buyer agent fee. Well, I think you're kind of limiting yourself
right. Yeah. Yeah.
to, potential buyers that you're going to get if you agree to pay out a commission to the buyer agent. I
Yeah,
mean, why?
the whole pitch was you're going to net more money doing it. That hasn't changed. So why would you know what I
Right.
mean? And isn't
Absolutely.
that the goal? Isn't that always the goal? Right?
Absolutely. Because, how are you as a listing agent really going to be able to do your job effectively if the seller says, well, I don't want to pay a buyer agent fee? I think you're limited
Right.
as well, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really going to put people in a difficult position. Why, as a seller, why would you not be willing to do that?
Exactly.
I don't know.
If you're going to benefit, right? So
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
But we will stay in touch. And you want to you got anything you want to shout out? You got I know you got other businesses you do, right? You want to give a little shout out to that? Uh, how's it going with that?
Curly Tail is doing well. So,
Good.
for people who don't know or haven't heard, my daughter and I own a dog bakery and we make cakes and cookies and donuts and cupcakes.
Awesome.
And we have a really nice customer base. I taste test everything, and humans actually can eat all that stuff. And you know what? It's a nice outlet for me. It's a de-stressor,
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
from a real job.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I got my gardening. You got your
I know. I'm excited. Are you excited? The weather's getting nice.
yes.
You're gonna
I
start
started
gardening?
I started the seeds already. I got my house
Nice.
is like a grow house right now. So my girlfriend I got
What
seeds.
kind of grow house?
Yes, exactly. So thank you so much for being on, and I'm hoping you'll come on and we'll keep doing this. Like you'll be a steady guest on the breakdown. You promise?
Absolutely, Vin. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
perfect. All right. Well,
Always fun talking to you.
yes, you too. I'll see you soon.
All right. Be well.
Yes. Happy Easter.
You too. Bye.